Welcome YouTube to the Narrative Crusade Start Collecting series. Today, the long overdue Death Guard. But first, part 2 of our campaign pack is out. I thought we had it all sorted and written, but a last minute group of diehards submitted results and swung the entire campaign. Any faction can get involved, any game can be submitted. Thanks to the continued support of our Patreons, we will now be giving away 3 combat patrols or the equivalent. We have been delivering internationally. It is not too late to become a Patreon. The Death Guard. Who are they in the lore? The Death Guard were one of the original Space Marine legions created by the Emperor of Mankind during the first founding. They were known as the Dusk Raiders before they were reunited with their Primarch. They were renowned for their resilience and endurance. During the Horus Heresy, however, the Death Guard suffered a terrible fate when they were trapped in the warp by a powerful storm and some typhus shenanigans. They were infected by a plague, couldn't hack it, and turned to Nurgle. Now they are currently the plague spreaders of the 40th millennium. They take the gift of Nurgle wherever they venture. I'd like to take a moment to say, if you don't get Nurgle, which I certainly did not, why would you want to be a plague-ridden zombie marine? Then read The Lords of Silence. It is, in my opinion, the best book to explain the philosophy and strategy of the Death Guard, not to mention their mindset. Little details such as Terminator armor no longer deflecting bullets, but instead accepting the metal of a bullet into their body, neutralizing its momentum, and then dissolving that metal into their body to form the basis for future momentums really made me a fanboy of the 14th. The Death Guard range has a lot of unique sculpts, mostly very new models, many of which are fairly unique in a number of ways. The core body is very infantry focused. Historically, the rules are very fitting with the lore, and they have a number of unique weapons and a prolific amount of flamers, which have given them such names such as the Plague Sprayers and Plague Belchers, etc. Taking the most neutral stance I can, I'd say they are on the cusp of excellence as a collection. They need about 3 new types of models to take the range into truly epic. They've got a good blend of potential themes already, and 1 or 2 models will just tip those over. What could that be? Something like a big plague zombie, or a giant plague engine all directed towards Nurgle would work quite well, and then another plague marine type with some kind of heresy era plague launcher would be fantastic. On to the bad. Currently, the Death Guard are really suffering rules wise. I think when the September balance sheet comes out, we can make some long-term judgments. The range itself does not need to go anywhere. They are all up to date and all fantastic sculpts. But if you're looking for your next playable faction, you are unlikely to be winning any tournaments with the Death Guard at the moment. Equally, if your local branch or friends are all power-hungry pro gamers, then maybe they're going to be worth a miss. However, if you're okay with the uphill position at the moment, then good news, you're a true veteran of the Legion and welcome aboard anyway. What themes can we build around with our Death Guard army? We have the Zombie Horde, dead easy. Typhus has a bit of a reputation for spreading plagues across the galaxy anyway, so much so that he's convinced everyone that that's actually the core of the army anyway. In which case, a Poxwalker army is going to be good for you. Getting 60 is achievable using eBay and the Start Collecting box. They're not terrible. With a 5 plus Feel No Pain, 60 can be a pain to shift. Next, it is very easy to build around a Terminator-based army with a lot of infantry, and fitting of a Death Guard army to do so. 16 Terminators is not uncommon to see in a Death Guard army, Death Shroud Terminators being particularly stand out. Or, if you're looking at a current meta army, it's going to see you with a number of Plague engines, particularly the Plague Burst Crawler. Nearly every list is running a minimum of 2, with Mortarion at the moment, so you're going to want to keep your eyes ahead a little bit and consider where you're going to be placing your range. Do you want a theme, or do you really want to be pushing the meta? Where's a good starting point then? The Start Collecting box is very good. It gets you into the rules. You can play some combat patrols. If you've watched our recent series, it's actually stand out quite good. It's a surprising box in many ways and a good way to learn the rules at 500 points. You could even use that in boarding action. Templite Lord Terminators will also never let you down, nor will a Plague Burst Crawler. That pops in at £232.50. Now this does assume that you're going to use the spare character in the box, the Biologist Putrefier, and pretend that he is a Chaos Terminator Sorcerer. Long term, you're probably going to want a second box anyway. Snip the Typhus weapon arm off, do a helmet swap and a wooden staff, and then voila, you have a simple kit bash for a Terminator Sorcerer that looks like a Nurgle Chaos Terminator Sorcerer instead of a Thousand Suns Chaos Terminator Sorcerer. So a bit cheeky, but we are starting, so fair enough in my mind. Also, worth noting here that Poxwalkers are quite easy to get on eBay, so are a number of the other units here. I managed to knock off £50 quite easily just from the buy now options. Well worth a trawl of eBay. The range is quite broad. A number of people have bought the models over the years, and at the moment people aren't so hot on them, so have a look before you buy. An alternative 1000 points is the Lord of Virulence with an enhancement, 10 Plague Marines, 5 Blight Lords, 3 Death Shroud, and 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. This could be an expansion on the previous, or it could be where you want to start. This is perhaps a little bit more of a meta list, a little bit more hard wearing, particularly with the Plague Burst Crawlers and the 3 Death Shroud being a little bit more optimum at the moment. That pops in at £260, but again, I managed to knock about £40 or £50 off of the options just looking on eBay. Expanding the collection further, we're absolutely going to want to see Mortarion in here. He is one of the most fantastic models. He is immensely detailed, even now, a few years after he's been released. And I don't think there's another model quite like him. These lists don't include some of the stereotypical must-see characters from a Death Guard list at 2,000 points, such as the Foul Blightspawn and the Tallyman. And then are you considering a theme? Do you want Terminators? Do you want Demon Engines? Or do you want Zombies? I mean Poxwalkers, sorry. How have they been for myself to collect? The Death Guard collection was actually speed painted by Luke and myself. We used the Streak and Grime tutorial by Slayer Miniatures. It took about 4 weeks to assemble, base coat and grime the models, the grime taking 3 days for the whole army of around about 3,500 points. We did not manage it in quite the 24 hours that Slayer Miniatures managed it, but then we're not quite as good at speed painting. Mortarion, I will admit, took a very scary 30 minutes to actually paint, and he's one of my favourite models in the collection. The individual models look quite good. I really did want the dirty white effect. I didn't want to paint them green. However, personally, I think for this collection, the lack of a tuft and the bases does let the models down a little bit. They don't pop on the table quite as well as I would like, and I think they're going to be my 2023 revisits, something I'm not particularly looking forward to. I think a nice little blue or purple tuft here would have made quite a bit of a difference. You can look online for tutorials. It's quite easy to find Death Guard. The support on YouTube is very good. The Slayer Miniatures speed painting tutorial is there, which is something really good to start with. The Warhammer Battle Ready Death Guard is very good for the green, and I also found this Brushstrokes painting guide to be very good for the green as well, mostly using Citadel paints that a lot of people may already have. It is worth noting, and something to just be aware of, is that each Death Guard model is incredibly detailed. It's on par with characters in other factions. There's warp flames, maggots, intestines, bones, saws, fabrics, metals, ceramics, the lot on every single model. It can be quite a time-consuming process if you're really going for a top-tier paint job. For this reason, not necessarily recommended as a first army, especially with their current position in the meta. So if you're new to the game, you need to just be aware of that before you dive in. Although I recognise that can change very quickly in a day with points or balance data sheet updates. One of my favourite armies, have really enjoyed playing them. With that said, one of my favourite infantry-based armies, really like having 20 Terminators on the board with support, walking up, standing in the middle, and then spending the day getting shot to pieces. Finally, thanks for listening. Check out our campaign in the Discord area. We are considering a video on what we would like for Death Guard on the balance data sheet outside of points and our old rules back, please. What ideas do you have? Finally, not too late to get involved in the prize draw or campaign. Visit Discord or Patreon for details.